Hello and welcome to Protect and Educate. I'm your host, Marco Johnson. Today we're going to be talking about something that's on top of mind with everyone, and that's school safety. Thankfully today we have someone who knows something about safety. Today we're joined by our new Police Chief Curtis Nicholson. Welcome.
Hey, thank you.
So let's talk about the motto, which is Protect and Educate. What is that?
So actually we borrowed that motto from the National Association of School Resource Officers, or NASRA as we refer to it. And that's the motto for all school resource officers really around the country. And so we thought that we would model that kind of after NASRA, and that is really our primary function, is to protect and educate the kids within USD 500 in our school district.
That's excellent. So let me ask you this. We talked earlier, and your background is really impressive. Tell us about that.
So, thank you, by the way. So I started my career in law enforcement with the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department in 1990. Spent the next 29 years there and worked my way up through the ranks, and eventually retired in 2019 as a major from that police department. After retiring there, I came to USD 500 School Police Department and spent about a year as the Deputy Chief of Police, and then took another job within the district and was very briefly the undersheriff at Wyandotte County Sheriff's Office under Sheriff Dan Soptic, and just returned as the Chief of Police here at the school district.
So your background is very extensive. How do you feel that that's going to help you in your role now?
Yeah, I think so. So I have traditional policing experience from my time at the KCKPD and my time at the Sheriff's Office, and then also school-based policing, which is a little bit different. There are some similarities, but there's also a lot of differences as well.
I see. So you've been with the district for a while now. Now you're in this new role. So how does that change for you?
It's new for me because I'm the chief. I'm kind of the buck stops with me. We have lots of good officers and lots of good supervisors and good people, but when the hard decisions need to be made, our officers and sergeants are looking for me to make those hard decisions.
So with that being, having the one to make those decisions, how do you make those? What are they based on?
I try to make my decisions based on what's best for the kids and what's best for the district as a whole, but making sure that the kids are really the top priority when it comes to all the decisions that we make. And I also like to take into account the experience of my officers and my sergeants, because quite honestly, they have more experience in school-based policing than I do.
So it's a collaborative effort.
100%. Yes.
Excellent. I love that. So what about, what's your philosophy on school policing?
So again, back to the NASRA model of protect and educate. We want to make sure that we're the first line of defense if something bad is going to happen in a school. And so we really put our lives on the line to make sure that our kids and our employees are safe here. And then the second component of that is educate. And that's an area where we need to kind of catch up to speed. We need to make sure that we get back in the classroom. We do a lot of good mentoring projects with kids, but we need a bigger presence within the actual schoolrooms where we're teaching classes to kids that maybe are something outside of the norm in the educational environment. We're not going to be teaching math and English and reading and those types of things, but I kind of foresee us teaching life skills and quite honestly how to interact with the police if you get stopped by the police, those types of things that are really kind of safety driven.
So you will actually be in the classroom with students?
Our officers will. There may be a time that I am in the classroom as well, but primarily my role is an administrator, but that doesn't mean that I can't come to class and visit with my officers and the kids at the same time.
That's excellent. So KCKPS has its own police department. What's the benefit there? So
the main benefit is that we have 48 employees, and about 30 of those are police officers, and they're assigned to multiple schools throughout the district. And the benefit of that is that you have a real police officer on scene if something bad happens, rather than having to call 911 and wait for that that 4 or 5 minute response time. We're there on the scene.
Response time, very important.
It is, so back to my history at the KCKPD, I forget exactly what our response time was, but when you call 911, it takes a while to get there, especially if officers are tied up on other calls and other emergencies. So with having an officer on the scene, it just makes our response time much less. It could literally be seconds and we're on scene.
And we've been seeing in the news where timing is of the essence.
It absolutely is, yes.
So what's the difference between school policing versus, let's say, the county or city police?
So municipal policing or traditional policing is like your regular police department. When you call 911, you get a police officer that shows up at your door. And primarily, they are responding to emergency calls. And although we do respond to emergency calls within the district, our role is really more of a stationary protective measure at the front door, visibility, deterrence, those types of things. And then again, the educational component is the second kind of leg of that.
Visibility, very important.
Yes, it is. You know, ideally, I'd like to have a police car parked in front of every single school, just as a deterrent for anything bad that's going to happen. You know, I don't want to second guess what happened in any different location, but had a police car been parked in front of that school, maybe they would have not.
Would have made a difference.
It could have made a difference.
I understand that totally. So why do you think your staff, and you say there's 30, correct?
There's about 30, so the numbers kind of vary depending on how many officers are on summer vacation and that type of thing, but we have about 30 police officers currently at our police department.
So why do you think they chose the district versus working for the city or county?
So there's many different paths you can take in law enforcement. You know, we talked about traditional police departments like KCKPD, and then there's the corrections side, and then prisons, working in that environment, that type of thing. I think most of these officers want to do something where they feel like they're making a difference, and what better way to make a difference than meeting with kids and being a mentor for kids who may not have that at home. Some do, some don't. But I think it's refreshing and maybe rewarding to work in that environment versus working in a prison all day long.
Absolutely. So we've seen what's going on in other states in terms of school violence. How are you guys prepared?
So we have lots of security and protective measures in place. I don't want to talk about those because I don't think it'd be appropriate to share some of our secrets, but we have officers deployed lots of different places. We have monitoring systems, and we also have the ability to just kind of see what's going on in many different locations. So
how connected are you to local law enforcement?
So I'm personally connected just because of my relationships there in the past. But all of our officers are connected to them through their relationships and, quite honestly, through our police radio. We don't have to call 911 to get help from another jurisdiction. We just pick up the radio, and we have good relationships with those officers on the streets, and they come by our officers and chat with our officers periodically. If they hear a call come out at our school, they'll come back and back us up. So those relationships really go deep, and they're very, very important because we can't be everywhere all the time, and neither can the traditional police. But working together, I think that we provide a pretty good, safe environment for our kids.
That's excellent. So finally, I just want to know what your goals are for the district.
Wow. So I have a whole long list of things that I presented when I was trying to obtain this job. And one of the main things that I want to do is try to get back into the classroom and make sure that we're teaching those things that aren't traditionally taught in schools and get our officers more exposure to the kids. There's many reasons for that, not only for the learning aspect, but just to also familiarize them with police officers and to know that police officers are not bad people, right? So many times when you call 911 and the police show up to your house, it's because something bad is happening. It's not very often that people call the police because they want to serve them dinner or whatever, although that does happen sometimes. We want to show them that we're human beings and that we have a job to do and that we try to do it to the best of our abilities while being compassionate at the same time.
That relationship is very important because we've reached a point in our community and across the nation that it's fractured.
It is, and I hope that by our officers being engaged with kids in the classroom and in the hallways that we can fix that relationship and just make it better for everybody down the road.
This has been a great conversation. Is there anything you'd like to say before we go?
I would encourage anyone to reach out to our school police department and our officers individually if they have any questions about things that we're doing or maybe even suggestions or ideas. Just because we're the police department and I'm the chief of police doesn't mean that I know it all. I'm always open to suggestions, and sometimes we can take them, sometimes we can't, but I would encourage folks to reach out to us and let us know their thoughts and their feelings.
That's awesome. Chief Nicholson, it's been a great conversation. Again, we want to thank you for coming out and talking to us. I also want to thank you for watching. Again, this is Protect and Educate, and thank you.